We are outside the Fresno Art Museum, and we're getting ready to go inside to take a look at the show, A Queen Within, Adorned Archetypes. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Fresno Art Museum. It's always exciting to walk into an exhibition. You go through the entrance and you just know that there are fascinating things that await. And we are here today with Sarah Vargas, who is the curator at the Fresno Art Museum, and you've really worked on this show a long time. It's called A Queen Within, Adorned Archetypes. Yes. First of all, thank you for having us.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. We always enjoy it when you come out, hang out with us.
So this show is a blockbuster, and
It is.
it's one that you got a really good grant to be able to put it on, very expensive show.
Yes.
And it transforms the art museum in a way that I think a lot of people haven't seen before. Exactly.
So we were very fortunate. The McClatchy Fresno Arts Endowment of the James B. McClatchy Foundation funded this exhibition along with J.P. Lamborn Company. And it is a fashion exhibition. So that is unlike anything we have had in the past here at the Fresno Art Museum. Fashion exhibitions have become some of the most popular museum exhibitions in the last decade. And so we really wanted to be a part of that. And we found this exhibition. We started working on it in 2019. And it is finally here in all its glory.
So there's a lot that goes into this exhibition. It's very accessible for people. It's always fun to look at amazing clothes, but there's also kind of an intellectual bent behind it as well, these archetypes. Could you just kind of give us a quick intro to that?
Of course. So there are 7 archetypes that are represented in this exhibition. The basic concept behind the show is that throughout history, women have been defined by certain archetypes. So there are 7, as I said, represented here. There are thespian, Mother Earth, enchantress, explorer, heroine, sage, and magician. Those are only 7 of a few that could be represented, but we take those archetypes and then we have garments and photography and other accessories that embody the elements of those archetypes.
And I think it's really fun when you walk through this exhibition to think of specific people, like people in your life maybe, or people who are well-known celebrities, like who would fit into these different categories? Well, fantastic. Well, let's take a look.
All right.
What are we going to see first?
First, we are going into thespian.
The thespian.
So thespian embodies the theatrical, the extravagant, lots of use of bold color. And this particular archetype are garments that are all by the very famous British designer Lee Alexander McQueen. And I'm going to talk about one of them while we're in here.
Okay.
Of the many, they all have fabulous stories. And that's what he was known for among his beautiful designs, was his storytelling in his collections. So this piece right here is from the Heaven and Hell collection. It is the very last collection that he worked on before his death in 2013. In fact, it wasn't entirely finished, so it hit the runway after he died. It is inspired by medieval and Renaissance paintings. He was very much inspired by the European old masters. You can see the representation of the religious iconography on the fabric, and then the fun element on the side where you can see our gold feathers that are part of the gown.
Oh, I see, right here.
Yes.
Wow. So a thespian is somebody who is on a stage or is presenting a character, but I would guess that the term applies to not just people who do that professionally, that we are all kind of thespians at heart.
We all create a character for ourselves that we present to the world. And Lee Alexander McQueen was one of those people who did that. There's a photograph on the wall behind you. The gentleman in the corset and gold skirt is Alexander McQueen.
Very famous, very well known. If you're we're in the fashion world, I mean, this is like one of the biggest names.
Know him. And while we have many designers in this show, the majority of the works are Alexander McQueen's. Barrett Barrera has the largest private collection of Alexander McQueen garments definitely in the country, possibly in the world. So Barrett Barrera Projects is the company that produced this exhibition. They're based out of St. Louis, Missouri, and they've been a wonderful partner on this show.
And this show has traveled to other museums. What are a couple of those other?
So it originated actually at the World Chess Hall of Fame in St. Louis. That is where the concept of the queen first was applied. So the queen is the most powerful piece on the chessboard. Then the exhibition grew beyond that. So it traveled to New Orleans and to Seattle, where I actually was very fortunate to be able to see it when we were deciding whether or not this exhibition was a good fit for us. And then we are the first California venue for this exhibition.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's our next stop?
Our next stop? Well, do you have any questions about any of the pieces here before we move on to a new archetype?
What kind of reaction do you get from people who see these for the first time? Do they want to wear something like this?
Oh, absolutely.
Do they say, where can I buy it?
Some people walk in just in awe. I remember a few women that came in were just astounded that they got to see Alexander McQueen dresses in real life. That was not something they ever thought they were going to get the opportunity to do. And these are some of his most exquisite pieces. This one's fun too, before we move on. I don't know if you can see where you're standing, but if you stand right here, there's a face in the sequins of the dress. Do you see it?
Oh my gosh, yes.
So this dress was created.
But you can only see it from this angle.
You can only see it from certain angles, yes. This dress was created as part of a collection that honored his friend, Isabella Blow. She had also been a muse for his work and a supporter from his very early years. So after she died, he created a collection to honor her. And that's her face. That
is amazing. I love the balls hanging here, or the globes.
We have a lot of elements that are just to make it feel like individual environments rather than just clothes on mannequins. Mm-hmm. So over here, we have the Mother Earth archetype. So this, of course, embraces natural and botanical motifs, but it also deals with issues of sustainability and ethical practices in fashion. So there's a lot going on here. Does anything catch your eye?
Well, of course, the color.
Yes.
Very vivid. It also almost reminds me of a maze that you would be in.
It is very much a maze. And when we were installing it, it felt like a maze.
And of course, this piece, is this a hat? Is that?
It is a headpiece.
The headpiece, okay.
It is by a designer named Charlie Lemindu. He is pretty famous in the world of wigs and headpieces, and in fact, he's designed for celebrities such as Lady Gaga.
Amazing.
So we have a number of pieces by him in this exhibition.
You mentioned sustainability.
Yes.
That's a really big issue right now in fashion, particularly in what they call fast fashion.
Yes.
Garments that are really cheap to buy, and then people only wear them a few times and
they're wasteful,
throw them away. How do you think this exhibition relates to that concept?
Well, and I think definitely when you look at the work by Vivienne Westwood, who's another famous British designer, you can see right over here this jacket that's on the rotating form. It says climate revolution, stop climate change. She has created an entire climate initiative using fashion as activism to try and counteract those negative effects of fast fashion. Because it's not just the fact that people wear them, discard them because they're not meant to last. It also has to do with the ethical practices of the companies that produce the fast fashion. And then there's the huge amount of waste that comes from factories. So these clothes kind of deal with those issues as well. There's a lot going on in Mother Earth, which is fair. I mean, Mother Earth, that's a wide encompassing subject.
Yeah, yeah.
And for example, the black spiky dress here on the rotating form, that is by a designer named Iris van Herpen. She is Swedish, and she is very focused on using recyclable materials, reclaimed materials, taking things that aren't necessarily items that you would use to make clothing and transforming them into garments. And then we have this really beautiful wood dress back there, which is not maybe so comfortable to wear, but lovely to look at.
That would be tough to wear. Not everyone could pull that off.
This is a really interesting piece, actually, in the terms of sustainability. It's called the smog-free ring. So it's by a designer from the Netherlands who has created, I'm not going to try and say his name because I will destroy it. He created what's called a smog vacuum, and it's placed in a few cities throughout the world, like Hong Kong, places that have really bad air quality, and it sucks the smog out of the air and then releases clean air. And these smog vacuums are towers. They're not small. They're giant structures. But what he does is that he then somehow, through his artist magic, takes the smog and compresses it into these cubes that he then turns into jewelry.
Fascinating. Talk about recycling.
Yes. So here we have moved into the explorer archetype. So this archetype challenges the conventional ideas of beauty and fashion. So you can see here we have the mannequins that are non-traditional forms. These as well. These particular pieces are by a Japanese designer named Munro. So we have the short wide and tall slim. Kind of messes with your brain a little bit.
It does.
To look
It
at
reminds me of a funhouse mirror.
Exactly, exactly. And if you notice, we have the mirrors on the ground, and that's the effect that you're going for. Mm-hmm. So, a piece I really like in Explorer that's very simple is over here. This is just a plaid shirt by Tommy Hilfiger, but it's part of his accessibility line. So the buttons on the shirt are magnetic, and it's for people that have dexterity issues and can't do buttons or zippers, but still deserve to have good-looking clothing.
You must get an interesting reaction from some people when they see this.
They do, yeah. When they hear the story, they can then understand and really appreciate that. And I've told people about that, and they're like, "Oh wow, that's amazing." And it's not just a plaid shirt.
And how does the name Explorer, how does it fit into this category?
For me, it is exploring new possibilities, not staying with the status quo, moving into uncharted territory.
It seems like a good time. We're talking about these kinds of issues a lot, and
yes.
So it seems like a good time to explore it.
Yes. So over here, we have one of my favorites, Enchantress.
And this you have to actually get up.
You do. You have to look into it, which is part of the story that it's telling, because there is that concept of how you look at people, the type of gaze that you use when you're observing. So Enchantress, it deals with the fantasy, with the seductress, the femme fatale. And we've really played up that fantastical environment in this particular archetype.
Well, and it's beautiful as well. I mean, it feels like a whole little world.
Exactly,
that
yes.
you created. That's
what I love about it, I think. And then this dress right here is my personal favorite that I would wear if they would let me. This is a Sarah Burton for Alexander McQueen. And we were talking about, in terms of garments that people might wear, the gold dress with the feathers is by Gucci, and Beyonce has worn that exact dress.
My goodness. And again, very, very specific colors.
Yes.
All three of these dresses, for example, I wouldn't be able to quite pinpoint what color each one is. So that's kind of a fun thing to observe.
Yeah, they're really beautiful. And you'll notice there's a lot of feathers in this archetype.
Yes.
As we circle around, this particular archetype utilizes a lot of accessories. So we have Red Wall, which is this giant red headdress, also by Charlie Lamindu. We have these really beautiful headdresses here. They kind of look almost ceramic, but they're 3D printed.
Really? That's fascinating.
The pink pillbox hat is in fact a pillbox hat. It has, so the little dots on it are not pearls, they are expired birth control pills.
Yeah, that's a story to tell people, right? It completely changes the tone of the piece.
That particular piece is by an Oakland artist named Michelle Pred. So.
And look at those shoes.
So the white shoe and then the gray feathers, those are Alexander McQueen. The red shoe is Prada. This shoe, everybody oohs and ahs over. The black one, Fenton and Young, I believe. Fantic and Young. Those are teeth on the bottom of the shoe.
I was gonna say, are they real teeth or do we know?
I am not sure.
Okay.
I would not be surprised, but I don't know.
Fascinating. Now that seems like that would be a real eye catcher at a party.
Yes. Though I'm not sure how stable walking on teeth would be.
Right, you come in and everybody's like, okay, she's not someone to mess with.
So here we have moved into heroine. So heroine is about strength, boldness. You'll see there's a lot of structure in these clothes. There's a variety of designers in here, including Alexander McQueen. The copper piece in the center is another Iris Van Herpen piece. Very structured, almost like armor.
I get what you're saying about the strength. It's almost like you feel like they could be going into battle.
Exactly, exactly.
This one, the red, is fascinating. It sort of looks like ginger.
I can see that. It's actually meant to emulate a heart, the organ, not the shape.
I see. And then the one to the left of that has like an ecclesiastical.
It is, yes.
feel.
It is meant to emulate a Pope-like outfit.
Pope-like outfit.
That is by a designer named Amelia, and her designs are very cutting edge, avant-garde, push the limit. She also designed the black angel wings.
Tell me a little bit about what it took to transform the space. I know you had a number of workers for several weeks, and how did it all get here?
Well, it came in 3 53-foot trailers from St. Louis. It took several days to unload the trucks. We had a crew for the installation of about 6, and then Barrett Barrera brought 5 installers out from St. Louis and a few other places. And we worked for 2 weeks straight. And in fact, longer than that, because we painted the galleries out before anyone else arrived.
Is there a particular piece that was really hard to transport, that was really delicate, or that you particularly had to worry about?
Well, everything was really well packed. So the more delicate pieces were crated. So we didn't really worry about that. It was more pieces that were challenging once you got them in the space. Some of the dresses were surprisingly difficult to get on the mannequins.
Really? Really? You'd have to dedicate some time at home when you're getting dressed for that party, right?
Yes.
To be able to put the dress on.
Yes.
What's your favorite in this?
Oh, in this one? There's some really beautiful pieces in here, but that piece towards the back, it's by Serena Gili with the gold fiberglass skirt, and then the chiffon top with the beads on it. I just really love that. I mean, you wouldn't be able to sit down in it, but which is usually a prerequisite for me. But it's really stunning.
It's top on Sarah's list, be able to sit down. Yes.
So here we're moving into sage. So So sage embodies the idea of like the wise woman, but here it's being used in the sense of what they refer to as sort of smart technology or alternative materials. So over here we have a material that is made from mushrooms. So it feels very similar to leather. And then this black shoe also looks like a leather shoe, but it's actually made of a material called Pinatex, which is made of pineapples.
Fascinating.
And then the only garment in this is this piece by Iris van Herpen. It's very light, ethereal, very different from the other two pieces we have in the show. And you can see an example, we have samples on the wall of how she uses recyclable materials to create her garments.
Well, this room kind of surprises me because when you say the word sage, I do think of more like Mother Earth or some an older, wise woman. And this is actually very
modern. Yeah.
Forward-looking.
The sound cert video is also one of my favorite elements of this particular archetype. It's really amazing because this technology was created to create a shirt to allow deaf people to experience music. And they tested it with an orchestra. Microphones on the stage that use transmitters to send the sound waves to the shirt, and it reflected in the garment. It was a really amazing, amazing thing.
There are also just details of the show, just structural details that I'm very impressed with. I love this bench. This is something that I assume was transported from other shows. And there are little touches like this that just make you think, wow, this is really
transforming
really nice.
This space was a major part of this exhibition. It looks nothing like previous exhibitions. I mean, just before this, we had Andy Warhol on these walls.
Exactly. Everything was much brighter and
a lot of color.
A lot of colors and stuff.
And it was all two-dimensional.
Exactly. Yeah, but these fixtures, the benches, it's very nice. So there's one more archetype, right? And we're going to go visit it on the other side.
So this is magician. So magician embodies imagination, creativity, the concept of using masks, taking different forms and transforming them into something else. The central piece is the Antoine Peters sweater that says on the front, I apologize, I cannot speak French well, "Ce n'est pas un sweater," which means this is not a sweater.
This is not a sweater.
And if you will notice...
Kind of an allusion to the Magritte.
Exactly.
The famous Magritte
Thank
pipe.
you for catching that.
And is this indeed, these are two sleeves that go...
They're 40-foot long sleeves.
40 feet. And you obviously had installers who knew how to put this together?
We didn't have the points predefined. We did it as we went along. It was very interesting.
So you had some flexibility.
We did.
How you're going to put the show together, because I guess every venue that it visits is going to be different.
Absolutely, because all the spaces are different. And we did have the curators on site for the installation. They did have a plan. They had a layout for the show, but everything changes once you get in the space.
Exactly.
That's how it always happens. So over here we have, in the concept of transforming pieces, these are by the Japanese artist Henri Lage. So he took 3 basic forms from fashion, a suit jacket, a t-shirt, and zippers, and he transformed them into sculptural elements. And then that lovely light up piece in the back, as well as the red and blue and white garment, those are by a Japanese designer named Hideki Seo. His pieces are very playful and embrace Japanese culture, influenced by anime, things like that.
So this must be popular among some of your younger...
Yes, the younger students.
Because they probably recognize that
yes,
style.
They enjoy it immensely. And then we have the beautiful Gucci dress. And then you have this backdrop. It's a very theatrical backdrop that these garments are placed in for this.
So you've worked with these archetypes for a while now. Have you decided which one you fall into or fall under? I'm sure you're asked that by every tour group, right?
I am often asked that, yes. I have a theater background, so I am naturally drawn to thespian. But as I mentioned, I love the enchantress archetype. Probably more from an aesthetic point of view than relating to the archetype. But.
And what do you hope people take away, or what are some of the things you hope people take away from this show?
I want people to understand that art can be many things. And if you look at the details on these garments, for example, the Gucci dress, the number of hours that goes into something like this, these are hand done. The level of skill that someone has to have to be able to create something like this is enormous. So they're not just craftsmen, they are artists. And art can mean many things.
So Sarah, thank you so much. This was a wonderful tour. There's a lot to think about in this show.
There is.
And there's a lot to look at as well. And I just would recommend that people, carve out some time and really be able to take that time to look at everything.
Absolutely. And I know when I have brought people through this exhibition, they want to come back over and over again to be able to spend time with the garments and understand the archetypes.
So how long does the show run?
It runs through January 8th. We will be hosting a closing reception on January 7th. More details about that will follow.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the museum for people who might not have visited before. Where is it? When is it open? That kind of
Well, Fresno Art Museum, we're located at 2233 North 1st Street, just south of Clinton. We are open Thursday through Sunday. So Thursday and Friday, we're open noon to 5. And Saturday and Sunday, we are open 10 to 5.
Well, fantastic. Well, I always tell people that they shouldn't put off a visit to a show like this. You tell yourself, it's open through January, I'll have plenty of time. But you gotta make it a priority or those months will slip away. So
we're already halfway through the run.
We're already halfway through the run.
I can't believe it.
So if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it.